throw any ideas you have out the window about carbs, about fats, about anything.
I don't have to change everything all at once in order to move forward.
So many people are like, oh, don't think about it, channel that into activism, and I think that hurting people hurt more people.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of The Vegan View. So today we are going to be talking about 3 things we wish we knew before going vegan.
We're going to each give our own personal advice when it comes to food, mental and emotional health, and activism within the vegan space. Just the advice we wish we could give ourselves as baby vegans, as a little less baby of vegans now.
Hopefully you'll find it helpful or you'll be able to relate in some way. We've all learned a lot over the years, but these are tips that maybe you haven't heard before, or we're gonna get a little more specific than usual. So I hope you guys enjoy this video and let's get started.
So first, we're gonna talk about food. The biggest thing for me, besides my next point, is that plant food, and for me I was eating very, very whole foods plant-based, but plant food caloric density is so much lower that the portion size that I had in my mind was so small, and I was just kind of like peckish all the time. Eating a bigger volume, like that's something I wish everyone knew when they started going vegan. But the other thing for me that's been the biggest difference in my happiness and longevity as a vegan is to follow and eat like people who look like you, who are like you, who lived like you, or from the same places as you are, and are vegan as well. I remember the representation when I first went vegan was like, it was very throwback Rontel 4, very much about the whole diet culture of veganism. And for me, I wasn't really getting into it for like a weight loss aspect, but like that framework really twisted my view of like my foods I actually like and enjoy eating. So for me, when I finally like kind of made the connection like, oh, I'm kind of miserable eating this way, and it's probably because these people that I'm following, that I'm interacting with, that I aspire to be like, aren't the vegans that I really could be happily. So I started looking on Instagram and I started following like Indian vegans, Gujarati vegans. I started following more people who, my mom is French Canadian, so I started following people who hashtagged vegan poutine, vegan tourtière. Like I started following Texas vegans. I'm from Texas. I started following a lot of vegans who used to make Southern food, soul food, barbecue vegan food. Like it's like something in my mind changed a little bit, where I was like, ooh, veganism is so cool, I want to be like that, to being like, yeah, I am vegan, like I can do that if I can eat like that. And since veganism, such a big tangible change is the food, and you kind of get picked on around for the food, like following people who can kind of act as representation for you helps you feel more empowered. And I feel like it takes the shame out of food and out of who you are, because we should never be ashamed of who we are. We're just little human beings trying to do our best, and especially if you're going vegan, you're just trying to reduce your harm and do your best. And who you are and who you come to this movement as is the most powerful advocate you can be. And so maintaining that sense of identity of who you really are pre-vegan is top notch. That is something I would have gone back and just been like, slap, get your shit together. Be yourself.
Before going vegan, I wish I would have known the difference between virgin coconut oil and refined coconut oil, because it is an absolute game changer. When I would go to vegan restaurants and festivals when I first went vegan, I was so encouraged by how delicious some of the food was, especially the baked goods and some of the treats. And they tasted just like the non-vegan donuts and, you know, cookies and things that I had before I went vegan. But then I would come home and I would try to make a recipe that I found online, and it would call for coconut oil, and I was using virgin coconut oil thinking that virgin sounds natural and that's probably better for you. I would use that, and sometimes they would turn out really well, but it would still have kind of a coconut background flavor, which is not always bad. I do really like coconut, but there are times where it just is not appropriate, and it's always very detectable. So if I would share a chocolate cupcake, for example, with a friend or family member who may not be vegan, they might like it, but they would take a bite and be like, oh, is that is that coconut? Oh, okay, yeah, that's good. I mean, I can tell it's vegan, but it's good. That was always the response that I got. And I think a lot of it is because coconut doesn't really belong in some of those classic flavor profiles. So what I found is that actually refined coconut oil is just filtered, and therefore it doesn't have a coconut flavor. And especially if you're putting it into, you know, a cookie recipe and there's a little bit of salt in the recipe, it really does taste super buttery, and you cannot tell a difference between the vegan option and the non-vegan option. And it's really cool to know that you can create those same comforting, familiar, classic flavor profiles without the animal products if you just use the right ingredients. So I wish I would have known that sooner.
One thing I wish I knew was regarding food and all of the ideas I had about certain foods I actually didn't really know much about. I feel like a lot of my food knowledge was based off of things I'd heard from people, you know, diet culture and things like that. So I feel like when I first went vegan, there were some things where I was like, can I have that much avocado, and can I eat that much bread, and certain things that, you know, based off of things I'd been told throughout my life, I had a wrong idea about. So I think it's really important to follow some plant-based dietitians and get a better understanding of plants and how to eat abundantly. And we will leave our favorites in the description box down below, but I think that's a really good place to start. Throw any ideas you have out the window about carbs, about fats, about anything, and just eat what makes you happy. I ate a lot of substitute stuff when I first went vegan because that was what was comfortable to me. I ate a very typical American diet before going vegan. So when I went vegan, I ate what I normally ate and just veganized it. So that meant sandwiches with faux meats and you know, vegan burgers and things like that. And then as I felt more comfortable with that and I knew I was getting full and feeling good, then I started to incorporate more whole foods, like more veggies and less processed things. So everybody's journey is different. Just go at your own pace, but definitely do not let that little voice inside your head try to tell you that any food is bad.
Mental and emotional health when going vegan. People don't talk about this, but I think it's crucial for longevity and for happiness being a vegan. If you're like I was and you went vegan for ethical reasons, it is so earth-shattering and sad. You feel kind of like you've just been duped your whole life. Things that you grew up not really thinking about or kind of purposefully turning a blind eye to have become so blaringly unethical that it's hard. And we get a lot of comments, I think, in our Facebook group I see where people are like, how do you guys deal with it? How do you deal with it? I am so sad. I am so angry. I'm infuriated. Honestly, for like emotional health, I think the biggest thing is to give yourself as much space to feel those feelings as possible. So many people are like, oh, don't think about it, channel that into activism. And I think that hurting people hurt more people. And in the end, when we're going from being hurt and being like actively upset and enraged, and we're channeling that into activism, we're not really fully processing our emotions. This is what I believe. So whatever you think can be different. If I hadn't spent that time and had just feeling everything and been pressured by like social media or friends or groups to go and enact that rage into activism, I don't think I would have been as effective as I had been. And like, I mean, each of us has 2 channels about being vegan, this one and our own personal channel. And we all do different kinds of activism. For me in particular, I really had that space where I didn't do activism, but I just felt my feelings and was in my feelings. And I know enacting emotional hurt or turmoil in a physical sense that is interactive with other people is just hurting more people and shaming more people and invalidating other people. And so if you can work on like processing your own emotions and feeling those feelings and maybe talking about them, you can come to our Facebook group and talk about them, really having like space to vent, Facebook page, different vegan groups. I think that is an extremely important part in keeping ourselves mentally healthy, because I don't think if I had gone through like that little grieving period that I had, I would have been able to take that pain, process it, and think, okay, I felt it, what am I gonna do now? I feel very in charge of my decisions, and I feel proud and I feel empowered. And now because of that, I feel like I know where my feelings and my abilities end, and I know where another person's begins, because I was able to process those feelings of finding out what happens to so many animals every day.
In terms of the mental and emotional side of things, I wish I would have known how much veganism would teach me to slow down and not take on everything all at once. I still am working on it. It's probably something I'll work on for my whole life, but that might actually sound surprising to you, because a lot of people think that veganism is a diet. And this would have been surprising for me to hear when I first went vegan, but veganism is a lot more than a diet to me, and it really has been a wonderful teacher to me, and it helped me to realize that I don't have to change everything all at once in order to move forward. When I first went vegan, I was really excited and motivated to make a big change. And I not only wanted to completely go from an omnivore diet to a vegan diet, but I also wanted to go oil-free, refined sugar-free, as gluten-free as possible. You name it, I wanted to do it. I wanted to completely overhaul everything all at once, and that is a lot of pressure, and it makes it a lot easier to get overwhelmed and to want to give up or to feel like you're failing and what's the point, and therefore you never actually make the changes that you felt so motivated to make in the first place. So what I did was, instead of going all in, I went slowly, and I started with breakfast. I started with a plant-based breakfast, a vegan breakfast, and I went from there because I realized this is delicious. This is totally doable. I don't feel like I'm missing out. I'm full. I feel great. Let's try a vegan lunch. And it just kind of snowballed from vegan breakfast to entire vegan days to entire vegan weeks to months to now 5 years. And I think it's because I really took the pressure off myself, and I let myself move slowly and to experiment and see what I like. And it wasn't about perfection. It wasn't about totally changing everything. It was just about kind of the next meal and the next meal. And that has really translated to other areas of my life where I don't always have to have everything completely figured out or to change everything all at once. Sometimes it really is just about the next right move and the next right move, as Oprah likes to say. And I really think that veganism was a really great practice, because you eat 3 times a day, and so it's like you practice little by little making progress, and eventually you look back and you're like, wow, I've made a huge change. And that is and has been a metaphor for so many other things in life. So that was not expected.
Another thing I wish I would have known is that it can feel really isolating, and a way that I wish I would have done things differently is I kind of came at it with like full force. I felt like the blindfold had been ripped off, and I just felt like because all of the people in my life love me and know me, they would understand why I decided to go vegan, and they'd want to know more about it, and they'd be interested in it. And I was met with the complete opposite. Everyone was like, you're crazy. What are you talking about? Is this a diet? What are you doing? And I found it really hard to navigate, especially with how strong I was coming on to people, like my families and my friends. And I had some really passionate discussions with people who were close in my life. And it ended up making me feel really alone and frustrated on top of everything. So I wish I would have just enjoyed my vegan journey in the beginning myself and not worried about trying to express myself or defend myself to everybody around me. So that's the best tip I would have when it comes to that, is just take care of yourself and, enjoy the process. Don't feel like you have to explain yourself to anybody, because you don't, It is your life and you know what's best for you.
Tip about activism I wish I had known. For me, I've always been just kind of like in my own wheelhouse of being an activist. I know for me, speaking on an internet platform is really empowering, and I know for me, showing food and showing lifestyle tips and items is a very sustainable way for me to have longevity within my activism. What I wish I had known is that I wish I had spent less time listening to jerks telling me how to be an activist. You've heard it on our channel. We say all the time, like, don't go out and actively shame people. Don't be mean. But you can be, if you feel like it is in your powerhouse to be one of those people to get up in people's face and have a good conversation without shaming or being mean to someone or attacking their character and who they are, like, go do it. Like, go do your thing. We know if you dig deep inside yourself and you have just a quiet moment with yourself, you know what is your best activism tools. You know what makes you feel empowered and what makes you feel uplifted by doing. And I know when I had started, I just really looked at everyone around me and I was like, oh, I need to be more like them. I need to be more well-spoken. I need to say more science stuff. I'm sure the other girls will say similar things. But I wish I just had stopped listening to them because I didn't at that time know the value of me, NISHA, without trying to be someone else. We don't need another one of everyone else around there. We just need more of you and who you are and what you feel comfortable doing.
What I wish I would have known when I first went vegan is that I don't have to be an expert anything. So I am not a dietitian, so I don't have to have every single fact right on the tip of my tongue and every single stat and every study right on the tip of my tongue because I'm not an expert. I am not a scientist. I am not an environmentalist. I am not a researcher. I don't need to be in order to be an effective activist. So what I did instead was I realized that what I'm good at and what I love and what I never get sick of thinking about and doing and talking about and sharing and teaching is cooking. And that I could not only share vegan meals, but also teach people how to cook vegan meals in a way that was really inclusive, really approachable, and very authentic to who I am. Therefore, I can be consistent, I can be effective, and I can create change in a really authentic way to me. So I would challenge you guys to figure out what that is for you. You know, maybe you are someone who is a really great speaker. Maybe you are someone who is a little bit more behind the scenes, but whatever your talent is, just figure that out and find out how you can use that to be an effective activist, and don't try to be something you're not, because at the end of the day, that's going to be tiring and you also won't be as effective. So be true to yourself. I wish I would have known that.
Your veganism and your vegan journey does not have to look like anybody else's. I think I had a lot of guilt when I first went vegan, feeling like I needed to be the best activist that I could possibly be. I needed to be doing more and more and more and more. And that's a lot of pressure to put on yourself. And I think that we are all activists in our own way. Just you being vegan is a form of activism. It truly is. You are going to plant a seed in somebody's mind. You are going to inspire somebody. And that is enough. And you should be very, very proud of yourself for that. I think a really good way to showcase your activism is just to show your plant-based lifestyle and how happy it makes you, whether that be on the internet, in real life, bringing a vegan dish to a party where a bunch of non-vegans are going to be there. Just sharing the joys of veganism can be a really great way to be an activist. And every type of activism is important, no matter what that is. So don't let anybody make you feel like you're not doing enough in terms of being a vegan activist.
Oh, I forgot. Okay, we're gonna end on one thing that happily surprised us. Okay, as cheesy as this sounds, to me, what's something that really surprised me, that happily surprised me is going vegan, is that the people who really, really care about the animals and care about doing the best thing for the animals and not putting themselves at the center of the movement and not doing it for the likes or for a diet trend or for clout, those people are cool. Like, I have met some freaking amazing, cool people going vegan. And I didn't think that would happen. I thought vegans were so weird and I thought they were so crunchy, and I really didn't think I would find my space and my place and friends that I would love going vegan. I thought I would have my vegan venting friends and then my real friends. But I have just found more special, wonderful people when I have gone vegan and when I've learned what kind of vegan I want to be. And I think when I stopped trying to be like every other vegan and every other vegan that I had aspired to be the perfect vegan, I started finding the realest, coolest people. And I'm not saying that all vegans are cool. No. When I started getting more connected to who I am and who I want to be as a vegan, I started finding more people like me who are like-minded, who are just really special, and I have met some of my closest friends, as you can see on this channel, from going vegan, and I feel really blessed from that.
Something that has been surprising that I wish I would have known when I first went vegan about 5 years ago is how delicious vegan food would become and how popular it would become and how much more accessible it is rapidly becoming. When I first went vegan, it was not easy to find a lot of types of vegan foods at the grocery store. Maybe they had one dairy-free cheese or, you know, almond milk, but it wasn't like you could get all of the different sauces and ice creams and snacks and frozen items. And the brands that did exist, some of them were good and some of them were just not so good, to be honest with you. But now, just 5 short years later, vegan food is at places like Target and Walmart and at the little grocery store in my hometown that never used to have any vegan items. Now there are vegan items and they're getting more and more slowly over time, and I just think that is so exciting. And on top of that, the vegan options that did exist beforehand are even better. A lot of them have reformulated or they've branched out and tried new things, and I just think it's so incredible to see how quickly the vegan movement has grown and how much brands are responding to that and how much easier and more delicious and flavorful it is to be vegan now.
One thing that surprised me the most is that I was actually really concerned about traveling as a vegan. I just kind of had this idea that, you know, personally, one of my favorite things about traveling is eating and trying new restaurants and trying new food. And so I was really concerned that going vegan was going to hold me back from that. And I am so surprised and happy to say that I have never felt like I've missed out when traveling when it comes to food. I've been able to find some really awesome vegan dishes at every restaurant, from places in the States to places overseas. It's been really easy to be vegan and travel, and it's actually been fun. Like I couldn't imagine how fun it would be, because in my mind it was something that was going to be so stressful, but it ended up being such a fun thing, and it actually makes me want to travel more. There's so many awesome vegan restaurants out there, restaurants that have vegan options. Like, the options are becoming more and more abundant, and yeah, it's so fun. It's honestly become one of my favorite parts about traveling. So that is something that you get to look forward to.
We hope that you guys enjoyed this video, and if you would like to answer these questions, please chime in and share your views in the comments below.
We've all been vegan for some time now, so hopefully that gave some insight and some little tips and reminders.
Subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. Subscribe to our individual channels as well. We also post over there. We also have a Facebook group that is super awesome, so join that if you'd like. And we will see you next week in another video. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.